Next on BYUSN, what's the status of all of the BYU NFL draft hopefuls after the first round? We'll break it all down with John Beck and Aaron Roderick. Welcome to BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. I am Spencer Linton alongside our resident Seattle Seahawks fan. Hoping Jaren Hall goes to the Seahawks, he is Jarom Jordan.
More on that coming up. John Beck has some very specific predictions on where he thinks, Jaren could go. But it was really fun to watch the first round. We've certainly got some interesting takes based on what happened, none of which included BYU guys, of course, but there's a lot of influence on BYU, which brings us to what's on today's show. We're expecting, 3 guys to be taken, perhaps even 4. We'll see, 2 to 4 from BYU this weekend. Rounds 2 and 3 today, 4 through 7 tomorrow. First round takeaways from a BYU perspective and what's trending. John Beck, who is the #1 private quarterback trainer in the world right now, joins the program to talk about Jaren Hall's round and team, plus Zach Wilson's not done in the NFL, according to John. And Keaton Slovis as the next NFL guy, plus offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick on his predictions of where Hall, Freeland, and Nakua could go today or tomorrow. But first, here are today's headlines.
Jarom just mentioned it. We're into day 2 of NFL draft weekend, last Friday in the month of April. Very exciting, busy weekend. Will BYU have at least 1 player selected today? Will it be Blake Freeland? Will it be Jaren Hall? Or could both of them go? Much more to discuss in just a moment.
Baseball beat Portland 9-8 in 10 innings, thanks to a walk-off wild pitch.
This one gets past Clamp. Here comes Gamble, and the Cougars win the series opener in 10 innings, 9-8. 2 Gambles score in the 10th, and it's a gamble that pays off.
Yes, well done, Dave. In the 10th, Tate's older brother Cole hit a triple that led to the game-tying run and eventual win. Little karma boost there from recently.
A little boost.
Game 2 is tonight at 8 Eastern, and the series finale tomorrow at 3 Eastern. Both on the BYU TV app. Tomorrow's game's on BYU TV, and of course, always on the BYU radio app as well.
BYU softball back into West Coast Conference play today. They'll host a doubleheader against San Diego, beginning a 3-game series. First game, 7 p.m. Eastern, 5 Mountain. The second game scheduled for roughly 30 minutes after the completion of the first game. The Cougars will host Game 3 tomorrow at 2 Eastern. That's noon Mountain time in Provo. They probably need to win out in West Coast Conference play to have any hope of getting that conference championship and an NCAA tournament bid.
Men's golf is in 3rd place at 3 under after day 1 of the West Coast Conference Championships in Bremerton, Washington. Zach Jones leads the way at 3 under for 3rd individually. BYU going to tee off here in the next couple of minutes.
BYU men's and women's tennis playing in the West Coast Conference tournament yesterday. The men's team lost to Portland in the opening round 4-1, thus ending their season. The women's team beat Portland 4-0 to advance to the conference semifinals. BYU's women will take on the top seed Pepperdine today at 1 p.m. Eastern. Good luck.
Track and field is in Tucson, Arizona for the Desert Heat Classic, which is appropriate because highs of 94 today and 97 tomorrow are expected. The men ranked 8th in the country. The women are ranked 14th.
Jimmer Fredette is part of a 4-player roster for USA Basketball's 3-on-3 World Tour team playing in Japan this weekend in the Utsunomiya opener. I confirmed that with someone who speaks Japanese, with 2 games tomorrow and 1 on Sunday. Let's go, Jimmer. All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending. One round down in the 2023 NFL Draft, and already it has impacted at least one major BYU player in the National Football League. Has it impacted any of the guys considerably waiting to be drafted into the National Football League? Jarom, what does the weekend look like for the BYU guys? And that's a loose term here because there are a lot of them being impacted here based on what we saw in the first round of the draft.
It looks rich, as in money. Okay, a few takeaways. First off, the Colts took Anthony Richardson. Would they dare take another quarterback in Jaren Hall? Ideally, Jaren, because the Colts have interest, as you mentioned, and as John Beck's going to mention coming up in the B block in a taped interview from last night, is Ideally, Jaren's behind a vet. And so that's not the ideal scenario. Hoping the Colts don't take Jaren because I'd love Jaren to be behind a vet, okay? 3 QBs in the top 4 picks, then none after. Will Levis, Hendon Hooker still in the waiting room. When will Jaren go? What does that mean for Jaren? We'll certainly see. There are people, as John Beck's going to say as well, I keep teasing it was a really good conversation, that there are those who have Jaren Hall above Will Levis on their boards, which is interesting. 5 tackles taken in the first round. Probably good news for Blake Freeland, who's looking to go second or third round. Bijan Robinson to the Falcons, super weird pick to me because Tyler ran for 1,000 yards last year. Obviously looking for a 1-2 punch, and Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Falcons, said Tyler Algier is a sledgehammer, Bijan Robinson is a contact balance guy. So
it's Reggie Bush and LaDainian Tomlinson. It's lightning and thunder they're hoping for in Atlanta.
And Lendale White?
Yeah, Lendale White.
Yes.
That's right. Sorry. Not LT.
Yes.
Lendale White.
Although, yeah, I just feel like it means fewer carries for Tyler.
Oh, it does. It does.
And I don't necessarily like that. Maybe it means the tread on his tires will be lower over the next couple of seasons, and he'll be stronger when he's in. Who knows? You could look at it a couple of ways there. Cody Epps, high school quarterback, went number 1 in the draft. Bryce Young from Alabama. That's pretty cool. Like the connection with Cody there. And then 6 Big 12 players were taken among the 31 selections in the first round from 6 different teams. So 60% of the league represented. That was the most of any conference in college football, which is pretty cool. And it's nice that BYU doesn't have to play those guys next year.
For sure.
So those were my top takeaways from the first round.
Yeah, the Algier thing I know caught a lot of BYU fans like off guard because my phone blew up. As soon as Bijan Robinson was drafted, I had like 15 text messages from 15 different BYU people saying, wait, what? I thought Tyler was the guy. Is Tyler not the guy? And I hung out with Tyler recently on a few nights, and listen, he knows his role. He knows that the Falcons have asked him specifically to develop as a change of pace back. They want him to catch the ball more out of the backfield. So,
they just drafted a dude that's really good at that.
They drafted a guy that's good on first and second down, too, and I feel like Tyler would probably be the third down and goal line scenario, short yardage scenario running back for the Falcons. So it could be a 1-2 punch. You're right. It means less carries for Tyler. He's not the bell cow running back clearly anymore. It's going to be a 2-back system for sure.
Tyler's the number 2 in that scenario. You don't go into the top 10
don't draft
and grab
somebody
Bijan and not have him the number 1.
And you have to, like, for a running back to be drafted
now.
that high in this day and age, they are absolutely in love with him.
We've had drafts where there were 0 running backs in the first round. We had 2 in the top 12.
It's a different era of NFL football. Like, running backs just don't go that high. And so the Falcons,
that means they loved
Bijan Robinson.
Yep.
He'll be the main primary ball carrier, but they still love Tyler Algier. I know Arthur Smith loves Tyler Algier. It's just going to be, he's a good change of pace
back. Not a
back.
1,000-yard guy now, unfortunately.
No,
that was fun to watch.
He could be a goal line crusher, though. Could still score a ton of touchdowns, get your short yardage, hard yards, rarely loses yards. So his role is shifting. It will change. Yeah. And he told me, he's like, they've really asked me to work on catching the ball out of the backfield much more. And that's typically what your third down change of pace back does, is you catch the ball a lot out of the backfield. Like, they utilize that part of the game. So he'll be working on that. It would have been fun to have him be the primary guy for the Falcons.
It was out of left field, man. It was like, what?
But good for him. As a rookie, he ran for 1,035 yards. Bijan Robinson might break that record next year.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't.
Right?
Bijan's really good.
So, very interesting. The Falcons do need a quarterback, which is interesting, right? Will Will Levis fall so far?
They're not in on Desmond Ridder, who they picked last year?
They need a quarterback. They do. They need depth there. So I don't know what the future is for Mariota. I know they like Desmond Ridder, but the team has stated that they are actively looking at a quarterback potentially. So could Jaren Hall wind up with his former teammate Tyler Algier as a quarterback running back combination? I still feel like everything that we projected and discussed yesterday in terms of like a good fit for all of our guys is still in play. I'm with you. I don't think the Colts loved Jaren Hall. There's no need for them to draft another rookie quarterback. You draft 2 rookie quarterbacks, and they're your guys.
Like when the Commanders
forward.
did that, as we mentioned, with RG3.
It was weird.
Kirk Cousins, that was odd.
That was a weird deal.
And ideally, again, we're in this like post-Zach Wilson, Aaron Rodgers thing where we're like, be behind a vet. And if you're not a first-round quarterback, you're not expected to kind of start right away or very soon. So hopefully Jaren gets in a good situation. Much more on that coming up with John Beck and Aaron Roderick. It's going to be a fun conversation.
So another takeaway I had is a ton of wide receivers were drafted.
4 in a row.
That wild.
Once Jackson Smith and Jigba went to my Seahawks, which I'm stoked about, it went boom, 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 boom. 4 receivers gone.
4 receivers.
Including Quentin Johnson of TCU. Glad to not face that guy
so
in the
fast.
Big 12.
So fast.
Jeez.
This bodes well for Puka Nacua. He's well down the list, but to have that many receivers taken early in the first round now has teams that need wide receiver depth looking at a guy more aggressively like Puka Nacua. A team like the Green Bay Packers. The Patriots are interested in wide receivers. Everybody needs wide receiver depth because those are guys that can play special teams.
Yeah, you need like 5. You need 3 really good receivers, and then you need like a couple other capable guys. Everybody needs them. It's 2023.
Yeah, we documented the 49ers are interested.
Anyone who has, anyone can take Puka. Like, it's not like, nope, nobody, this team couldn't take him.
Yes.
Like, literally every team could take Puka Nacua.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not draft an offensive tackle. A lot of people thought they might do that in the first round. The Buccaneers went with a defensive lineman out of Pittsburgh. So does Blake Freeland to Tampa Bay become more of a reality because we're into day 2 and Blake is a day 2, we think, a second round or third round guy?
And we think tackle, but he could be a guard. Who knows? Like, we didn't think Brady Christensen was going to be a starting guard.
The 49ers need interior offensive linemen.
Who doesn't need O-linemen? Like, the only position where you go, you don't need that guy is quarterback with first-round guys. And then everyone else could take every position. Because you always need more edge rushers. You always need more everything.
Yeah, there were more skill players taken in the first round than I expected there to be.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too. 4 receivers, 2 running backs.
Yeah.
And only 3 quarterbacks.
And 3 quarterbacks.
We thought like 5 would go in the first round.
Yeah, with Levis and potentially Hendon Hooker
are still sitting there, which is pretty interesting.
But I think there were 9. Well, if you include the tight end Dalton Kincaid to the Bills, that's 10 skill players in the first round, which I thought was a lot.
Michael Mayer looks so mad when they show him. And BYU knows firsthand what Michael Mayer looks like when he's happy because he chewed up the Cougs this year. That was tough.
It's a fascinating ordeal. It's such a huge event. It's a spectacle for sure.
I love the NFL draft, like way more than any other draft. Like it is. But I used to love the NBA draft. Now I'm like, I don't even know who 3/4 of these guys are.
All right. Well, let's call our shots here. Okay, we've saw the first round.
Let's just
we've seen how things
throw with our guys here.
We've seen how things have developed and have been put on the board. I have, and it's fun.
I have not.
One time. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend it.
I've thrown axes, just not there.
Just don't watch So I Married an Axe Murderer before you go throw
the backyard.
axes.
Yeah. Kids, stay in the house.
Okay, let's call our shots here with the 3 guys.
All right, let's go.
With the things that have happened in the first round, what we think is going to happen. So,
if one of us get one of these 6 picks, meaning team or round, that's pretty good because this is just a crapshoot.
Okay, all right.
Emphasis on crap.
So let's start with the guy that we think is and has been most consistently projected to go first, and that is Blake Freeland. Where do you have Blake Freeland going?
Buffalo Bills, 3rd round, 91st pick.
91st pick to Buffalo.
I think 3rd round, Buffalo takes Blake. I got Jaren in the 4th to my Seahawks. Seahawks! And then Puka Nacua I have to the Texans, 6th round, 203rd pick.
Okay.
This is what I have. Hopefully I get one of these, just for the heck of it.
You think both Blake and Jaren are going to go in the top 4 rounds?
I do.
We talked about good, better, best. This would qualify, in my opinion, as a better draft for BYU if 2 guys go in the top 4 rounds.
It's not best, but it's definitely good. And hopefully Caleb Hayes sneaks in the 7th. I don't know. It's hard to know on that one. But if he does, that'd be great.
A lot of teams, again, with all the skill positions drafted, a lot of teams did not take tackles and interior offensive linemen. So I feel like we're going to have a ton of those tonight.
Isn't it fun when it's like someone not named BYU at tackle? You're like, sorry, who is that? Unless it's like Paris Johnson, Ohio State, like the big ones, right? But we're not like NFL draft experts. So it's fun to be like, I love watching the 4th through 7th round. Like you go to commercial break, there's like 4 dudes taken. You're like, some German dude just got taken by the Patriots.
Networks are just playing catch up when you come back from commercial. Oh, we just had 3 picks.
I love it, dude.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of fun. Okay, for me, Blake Freeland, I'm buying the Kansas City Chiefs hype. They need
That'd be fun.
a couple of offensive linemen. They're in desperate need of an offensive tackle that can come in and potentially start and play right away. So I'm taking Blake Freeland, 3rd round, 95th pick overall.
Go and get him in the second then, Chiefs.
And the Kansas City Chiefs. For Jaren Hall, and this is not a surprise if you've been following along with the show, I know the Minnesota Vikings are really impressed with him. They liked his attitude, his maturity. They have Kirk Cousins. I feel like Jaren Hall mentality and his even keel nature is a lot like Kirk Cousins.
You like that?
I do like that. You like that? 158th pick overall, 5th round, Jaren Hall to the Vikings. And then Puka Nacua, I feel like the Bills, like as in Bill Belichick and Bill O'Brien, the offensive coordinator. The two Bills, okay, the two Bills for New England, they are known.
Sounds like a 30 for 30
especially Belichick. He finds these gems, these diamonds in the rough in the late rounds. And I feel like Puka Nacua fits that mold. And the Patriots need big physical receivers. Puka Nacua fits the mold. 6th round, 210th pick, a compensatory pick. New England is going to take Puka Nacua in the 6th round.
Pitchers had their fun. Let's not give them more.
And if they don't draft him, I expect them to be like probably the first phone call to Puka, like, hey, come and join us. We'll do what we did with Harvey Longy and make you like a preferred, high-level free agent.
Yep.
They gave Harvey a nice contract, right? Yeah, like a 6-figure free agent deal as an undrafted free agent. It worked out well for him. So
I just assume all these guys are going to make some good money.
Let's go. Yeah. Let's go. All right, we've thrown our darts. We'll see.
If we get one of those 6, just team or round, I'll be happy.
Close. We'll play closest to the pin on Monday.
We play close to the pin on Monday.
Yeah, we'll see who wins on Monday.
And furthest from the pin.
Yes. Yeah, what were you thinking?
This was way off. He didn't even get drafted.
Our question of the day, what does the weekend look like for the BYU football players based on what we sound in round 1? And by BYU football players, I mean the NFL draft hopefuls.
Just all BYU football players.
Tyson Peterson on
Golf.
Facebook says, it looks like the NFL is starving for great defensive players and offensive linemen. I think Blake Freeland is certainly going next. Well, what is next? Define next.
First pick today? Steelers?
I think Caleb Hayes will get drafted. And whoa, this is majorly blue-goggled here. Peyton Wilgar as well. Peyton Wilgar is a free agent.
If Peyton Wilgar gets drafted, we will both shave our heads, okay? Love Peyton, but he's going to be a free agent.
He's got too much to overcome,
out, right?
for sure.
Yeah.
He's
if
dealing
he had
with
been
a lot of
healthy
stuff.
the whole time, he'd have a good shot, but no, let's not.
All right, 26 Simo on Twitter says Jaren Hall may go before Blake Freeland.
Maybe.
Seems to be a premium on skill players, is what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Linemen not getting as much love as in the past, which is why I think linemen are going to go like hotcakes tonight.
But first round is like one thing, day 2 and 3 is another, and then 4 through 7 is like whatever. So the dynamic changes day by day, which is really fun.
Hashtag BYUSN Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
By the way, which feed of the draft did you watch?
I watched ESPN while I was out and about because that's the one that was working better in my streaming while I was at soccer practice for my kid. And then the NFL Network was on my TV when I got home, so I just saved it.
ABC the whole time.
Oh,
I
really?
love the game day edition.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Herbie
with McShay.
Yeah, McShay.
Yeah, the Jonas Brothers on. That was fun.
Okay, all right.
Okay, BYU baseball looks for back-to-back wins over Portland. Game 2 tonight, 8 Eastern on the BYU TV and BYU radio apps. Hey, if the drama from last night was anything for this series, let's keep it going. 17
combined runs. We were asking the 43-run combined question again.
They are ahead of
well on pace. Yep. What does quarterback guru, the quarterback whisperer, John Beck, think about Jaren Hall's current draft stock? Yeah. And is Keaton Slovis a sure thing NFL deal? We'll answer both of those next on BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968.
If you're looking to build your brand awareness and increase market share as BYU moves into the Big 12, this is the place, BYU Athletics. We can provide the tools you need to make sure your company is seen and heard. BYU Athletics is where you can align your products and services with loyal fans that cheer for our Cougars. And they can also help your business win. Learn more about what a partnership with BYU Athletics and your company will look like. After all, this is the place. Email sponsorship at byu.edu today.
Introducing the Truck for Adventure. The all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier doesn't compromise on power or comfort. This midsize truck was redesigned to incorporate the latest technology and designs for safety, comfort, and convenience. Plus, with up to 6,700 pounds of towing capacity and best-in-class horsepower, it's rugged enough for adventure and still safe enough to transport all your favorite people. Where's your new Frontier? You'll find it at Tim Daly Nissan Southtown and South Jordan.
Today was a great day.
You're going to feel the energy of all these volunteers.
I'm excited to get out into the world and see who else is making good.
And you're going to meet some of the most amazing people.
And we will all just lift each other up.
What we do is we create memories for families.
And you realize just how good people are.
It does take a village.
It's definitely been a journey.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. It's NFL Draft Weekend. We are live in Studio B with your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. All eyes on the BYU NFL Draft hopefuls. Alongside Jarom Jordan, I am Spencer Linton.
Okay, last night after the first round of the NFL Draft, I talked to John Beck, who right now is the top private QB coach in the world. Of course, coaching guys currently in the NFL. He had Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, the 1 and 2 picks. His guys go early, right, which was awesome. I talked to him about Jaren Hall, specifically what he's hearing, potential team and round he thinks Jaren Hall could go in, plus Zach Wilson's situation in New York. He feels like he's not done quite yet. A fun conversation with the legend, John Beck. All right, John, first off, congratulations. Your guys go 1 and 2 with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. What's that like, man?
I mean, it's pretty awesome. We kind of hoped it would be that. We didn't know what order it would be. One was going to go 1 and one was going to go 2, but it was pretty cool today to, have the opportunity to see those guys just a couple days ago, send them off on their flights, hey, all the best, and then boom, to see it kind of materialize today. And they both have earned it. They both worked extremely hard. They've had great careers. So, now it'll be on to the next chapter as professionals. But it's cool for us as 3D QB. We've had first rounders. We've had top 5 picks. But to have 2 guys go back-to-back 1 and 2, it's pretty awesome.
At what point did you realize that your football legacy would be as a coach rather than like the BYU guy and the NFL guy? Because right now you're like the quarterback guru in the NFL. Like you're on all these shows. It's going well.
I could have never drawn this up this way. I could have never painted the picture this way. But I've learned the older you get and the further away you get from your playing days, it's all about what you're doing currently. So, right now this is the current thing. It's gone really, really well. And we've been fortunate to be able to train the guys that are really, really good guys. So, that's a big part of it, right? It's a lot to do with the opportunity that I've had with some of the guys and, their hard work has paid off and that's helped us.
Okay, obviously, Jaren Hall is going to be in the mix tomorrow. What is your sort of anticipation, given that people talk to you about Jaren, and we're hoping potentially go second or third round if he goes day 3, maybe early day 3, we hope. But ultimately, like the fit is better than the round probably at this point because he's probably going to be a backup.
Yeah, I think like the thing that we've all kind of told Jaren is, look, like you have a wide range of what we're hearing back from teams. So because of that, there's no way to like pinpoint it on something. At times you can give guys, look, it's going to be within probably these 12 to 15 picks. Jaren's different. Some teams, they have him with like a 3rd round grade, but because of some injury history stuff, they don't know what that grade gets put at on draft day because teams are always trying to get those mid-round guys as late as they can rather than trying to move up to guarantee it. There are times that a team, because of the way the cards get shuffled, they're like, we can't not get that guy, let's move up. But for the most part, teams are trying to find a way to get somebody in a later round. So for Jaren, because of the age and the injury stuff, you have this wide range of like 3rd to 5th, 6th. So, I know this for the most part, he's probably anticipating the safer bet is probably somewhere early day 3, but it doesn't mean that somebody couldn't call his name. I have him on my picks going in the 3rd. That's where I feel like with what I've heard from teams, I think that's where, like, I think I could see it happening. But at the same time, you never know. But he's definitely getting drafted. He's definitely going to go somewhere to a place that's not just drafting him as development as a third. The pick is going to be to develop him to be their backup soon, and then see if he can, develop into starter potential.
Certainly, given the Zach Wilson stuff that's gone down, and we hope Zach gets a chance here in the next, couple years behind Aaron. And I want to ask you, Rogers, about that in a second. How comfortable do you feel with a guy being in that position? Like, it wasn't what you were asked to do. You were asked to get in there with the tough situation, and obviously that was difficult. Zach, same thing. Is there a benefit to being asked to not be the guy right away in the NFL?
Yeah, I remember when I got picked, the day after I got picked, they said, here's the plan. And they gave me the years I would sit and the years that I would be the main backup and the years, this is ideal. And all of a sudden when it's a disaster, it doesn't shake down that way. Zach's was unique because the Jets didn't go out and have a veteran on the roster. So it was like from the get-go, the plan was just to get him on the field. And that's tough. Unless you've come from a situation, I'm going to kind of say like Bryce Young. Bryce Young had multiple NFL coaches that had already been offensive coordinators that were running exactly what they ran in the offense in the NFL, and they're doing it at Alabama. So day in and day out, like if you look at it right now, Alabama is going to put together a number of dudes that are going to go in the first 3 rounds of the draft. So every single day at practice, you're going against NFL caliber guys. That's going to prepare you better than anything college football can. So, to me, like Zach's situation was one that it was like, let's get him out there and let's develop him on the go. Well, in tough situations, that is really hard. It takes patience. I look at somebody like Troy Aikman, Peyton Manning. I think both those guys led the NFL in interceptions their first rookie season. So, like, that's understandable. So then it comes down to the patience of the people around him. Can the situation improve? Unfortunately, year 2, even though the Jets were winning, it was like there was this expectation of like, but we want to win a certain way. Zach's not meeting that. My hope is that what would have been really good for him his rookie year and having a veteran can be what's great for him in year 3. Have the opportunity to be there with Aaron, learn from Aaron. The pressure's not on Zach, right? It's going to be about Aaron Rodgers taking that team to the playoffs. And all you do is you put your head down if you're Zach and you just work, and learn.
Is the hope, obviously, that he gets another opportunity in the next couple of years? You'd think Aaron's there a minimum of 2 years. Who knows how much time he has with the Jets? But is Zach going to need to go to another team after his rookie contract to get that opportunity, perhaps?
I mean, I don't know. His best thing may be on another team, but I would say this, like, there are chances that he does have an opportunity to play. He's going to play in preseason games. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to play much in the preseason games. And so Zach's going to get a bunch of reps with the 1s and 2s in preseason. That's opportunities to have good things happen again for him, which that's the priority right now. Play ball, have good things happen so you can get in that groove again. And so to me, there can still be really good football things happening in New York. And look, if the things can turn and, all that stuff with like the fan base and all that, like if it can shift, great. And he can stay in New York and have good things happen. If he doesn't, that's okay. I mean, because he can still improve. He can still be a better player. Like, I'm not going to make like some hot take prediction, but I will say, I think Sam Darnold is going to have some really good things happen in San Francisco. And here's a guy that went to the Jets for a couple of years. They didn't keep him. Now he goes to Carolina. They don't keep him, but he plays some good football, has some good things happen. And now he's going to go to San Francisco, which is probably his best situation of his career. And I predict some good things happening. So for Zach, do I think some good football is in front of him? Absolutely. Does that mean he stays a Jet? I don't know. Maybe his best opportunity comes 2-3 years down the road somewhere else. Who knows?
I know you're a big Kyle Shanahan fan because you got to know Kyle in your NFL career, of course. And I just think Zach's fate changes if he goes to 3 to the Niners.
Yeah.
Like in the multiverse, I'm like, oh, that would have been the spot, man. And as a Seahawks fan, I would have loved it and hated it.
Yeah. What's tough is there were some discussions in the very beginning when it was his pro day. San Francisco went up on his pro day. And when we were in the car.
John Lynch was there.
I know. And when we were in the car, wait, was Lynch there? I think he was, wasn't he?
He was.
When
they had traded up that day.
Yeah, when we were in the car, I rode back to the airport with his agents, and we were on the phone, and you just, without going into detail, there were conversations of, what do we do? Like, let's talk about this. And yeah, it's tough because it's easy to look back in hindsight and say, what if? But look, every year in the draft, guys get picked and they have zero control. It's the difference, right? Like if you're growing up in a high school situation and you know it's not great, your family's going to do something to either move, boundary exception. They're going to do something. If your aspirations are to get to college football, they're going to do something. And you have control over that. College football, you get to pick the college you go to, right? Even if it's not going well, transfer, I'm out, I'm going somewhere else. You have so much, you have control. In the pro game on draft day, you are sitting in front of a TV and somebody's going to pick you and you have no choice. It's really kind of a strange deal and you're just crossing your fingers. And I remember people telling me that because some teams like Oakland, Detroit, Cleveland, they were picking quarterbacks my year. And it was like this weird thing of like the term, I'd never heard it before. Quarterback graveyard. It was the first time I heard it. Oakland, Cleveland, Detroit. Man, John, just, you got to be careful, cross your fingers, hope it goes good because, man, those places have been quarterback graveyards. And so when I got picked by Miami, I'm thinking, this is nice. I didn't go to those places. And then Miami goes 1-15. You never know.
Yeah. His pro day was too good. I blame you. Just kidding. No, it was awesome. It really, that famous throw, didn't need it. No, I'm just messing. Okay, back to Jaren Hall. You mentioned the third round grade. Is there a couple of teams that you think he'd really fit in well as the backup right away?
I mean, I'll tell you what I'll just say, I picked him to go to Seattle, and there's probably some bias there.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Let's go.
I mean, look, there is some bias there because I want Jaren to go to a spot that I feel like would be a great spot for him. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. Right. Hopefully, like sometimes you put it out there in the universe and you will it to happen or something. But I mean, I look at the situation. Geno Smith has learned some great lessons. Geno Smith had a Pro Bowl year. Geno Smith is the guy. They're building pieces there. You look at that wide receiver core that they have. My goodness, if you have to play a game as a rookie, you want some dudes around you. Seattle's got it. Right? What is Pete Carroll like? What is the foundation of Seattle? Play great defense. Let's run the ball. Let's play action pass. I'm like, it's Jaren. And then when things break down, the dude's got the athleticism to make plays outside the pocket. It's almost like the formula that they put together to help Russell Wilson win is a great formula, and it could be one that Jaren Hall thrives in. So, do I know that's where he's going to go? No. But it was kind of like one of those things where as I'm going down the list, third round, that's kind of like on the higher side of where some teams have him. But to me, I'm like, I would love for a team like Seattle to say, you know what, let's go do it. Let's go grab that guy, And so to me, I'm sure part of my pick was because that's where I wanted him to go. And if I didn't know him, I didn't pick DTR or these other guys, I didn't, guess where those guys were going to go. I guess where the guys I trained went. So I'd love to see that. Here's what I do know. Kansas City's in the mix. New Orleans could potentially be in the mix. I think, if Houston hadn't gone CJ early, man, I mean, here's one thing. This is going to sound kind of crazy, but do not be surprised if a team like Indianapolis doesn't also take a fourth round quarterback. They really like Jaren a lot. And there's those models that go back to the Mike Holmgren days, the John Gruden days, where they say you can never have enough good quarterbacks to develop. Mike Shanahan did it when they picked RG3, I believe second overall. Then they went and grabbed Kirk Cousins in the fourth.
Yes.
Do not be surprised if the Colts, they could grab another quarterback, and I know they really, really like Jaren.
And that's interesting because we haven't seen it a ton, especially in the modern game. But frankly, I'd like him to develop behind a vet. And maybe like you were mentioning, that's interesting. It is good to have BYU back in the quarterback game. You are, part of this process as the off-season and in-season kind of coach there. And Roderick obviously has done an amazing job. We're hoping Keaton Slovis, another one of your guys, and a guy you were influential with. It just feels good and right that BYU's in the quarterback game again.
You know what was cool? I was just with Keaton and a bunch of the wide receivers today. We were training today. And to have the conversation where I get to say, hey, look, when you get to the NFL, when you're on an NFL team, because I firmly believe Keaton is an NFL guy. I've trained enough of them to know there are teams that are going to absolutely like the way Keaton throws the ball, the way he plays with the base in the pocket, how smart he is. He does so many good things. He's a big dude. And I just think it's so cool that you see this. It's exactly what Aaron Roderick wants to have. We've had this conversation together. And he's like, this is what I want. This is what I believe can happen. I mean, he called it a couple of years ago. He's like, look, Zach is phenomenal. And I know that Jaren, if we can continue to develop in the right way, I know he's a guy that's got, draft capabilities, and that's now being realized. And Keaton, same thing. When all those conversations first started with Aaron and, about Keaton, that's an NFL guy. To get an NFL guy to come to BYU. And look, here's what's going to happen. If you can have 3 draftable draft guys in a row, your place becomes a destination. And it's going to be great for the university. It makes it tough because the guys there, you better know, competition, whether it's there already or whether it's moving in, there's going to be a lot of competition to be that starting quarterback because it's going draft, draft, draft QB.
I read a book that really helped my young fandom of BYU called And They Came to Pass by Lee Benson. Just the greatest title for a book.
It is.
All about the quarterbacks. And it started with Gary Scheide and it kind of ended with Ty at the time. BYU's back in that game. John, we appreciate the time. I could talk to you all day about a million things. Do you like my picture, by the way?
Yeah, no, awesome. That's the first thing I noticed. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, there's Gio on your back right there.
That was a fun play. You know what was actually cool, too? I got to throw some passes to my guy, Johnny Harleen, in the alumni game. A lot of fun.
That was awesome.
It was so cool. You know what? I threw a pass. I threw Johnny a pass. I threw Curtis passes. I threw Manasseh passes. I threw Fahu passes. I got to throw passes to all these guys, Dennis Pitta, Austin Colley. I mean, back when I was, 22, 23, 24 years old, that was so cool. That's the part about the alumni game that I think is so rad because it's like here as a 41-year-old guy, those are just memories of what it used to be like. And all of a sudden you get to go back and feel like you're 20-something years old again, throwing it to those guys. So it was cool.
It was a very fun night. It was awesome. Well, thanks for the time and best of luck with the rest of the draft. And hopefully we'll see Jaren on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is the one and only John Beck.
Great insight there. And I really hope he's right with
about Seattle.
My Seahawks, dude. I would love that so much.
You and I were just talking about it
for like 2 years. Drew Lock has a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Then he could be done, and then Jaren could be the backup, potentially the next guy.
You and I were just saying the New Orleans situation that he brought up as well would be
juicy,
wild,
right?
Cougs. Like you've got Jaren Hall, Daniels, Sorensen, Taysom, Jamal Williams all on the
too
on the
crowded
Saints.
of a quarterback room for me in terms of like him playing in the next 2 to 3 years.
Now if the Saints got rid of Jameis Winston or something, like maybe they would draft and then that
Derek
would force
Carr
somebody
could
else
be
out
after 2 or 3 years
for sure.
But yeah, we'll see where he goes, man. Very exciting. Very exciting. If you missed any interviews, D Blue shows, games, you can find them on BYUSN.com or download the free BYU TV app.
The college football playoff dates for the inaugural expanded playoff have been set. Why the NFL loves the format, but do you love the format? This is BYU Sports Nation.
I love it.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
They prefer to be bringing the heat, getting set for success, demonstrating their drive. But when their blood and sweat turns to tears or anything else, we lay the groundwork for BYU's athletes to hit the ground running again, and you as well. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU Athletics.
Thing about BYU Sports Nation. It's a banner that unites fans all over the world. BYU TV and BYU Radio are all about bringing your family events and games live. On air, online, and on the free apps. It's the next best thing to being there, connecting your fandom with others across BYU Sports Nation.
Download the apps and get exclusive access to analysis and interviews with players and coaches. BYU TV and BYU Radio, the place for all things Cougar sports. Tune in, join in.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. He is Jarom Jordan. I am Spencer Linton. Let's whip it! Cougar Whip Round presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
6 players from the Big 12 were taken last night, 60% of the league, the most of any conference. Does being in the Big 12 put more pressure on BYU to produce more NFL talent?
No. It puts more pressure on BYU to recruit at a higher level so you can compete at the Power 5 level, but that will probably naturally translate into BYU having more draft picks.
I think BYU's doing a great job in the NFL draft and in the portal. That will naturally occur. I think BYU fits into that mold.
If 3 get drafted this weekend, that's 9 over the last 3 years before BYU was in the Big 12. They're trending in the right direction.
Power 5 team.
Yes, they're trending in the right direction. Bill Hancock, executive director of the College Football Playoff, confirms the national semifinals will be played on weekdays to avoid the NFL wildcard weekend. They will likely be played on a Thursday or Friday. How do you feel about games of that magnitude being put on weekday nights?
It's destination viewing for me either way. It does not matter.
Doesn't matter.
I will be watching.
Jarom, the College Football National Championship for how many years in a row has been on a Monday?
Hey, listen.
Do we care?
BYU's going to be playing in one of these soon enough. Let's go. NFL Rookie Watch on Twitter listed every team's worst draft since 2010. Listed Zach Wilson and the Jets in 21. Is this accurate considering 7 of those picks are either out of the league or free agents?
No, it's just so knee-jerk and reactionary, and it's because it's like a trendy thing to say right now. Let it play out. Let him develop a little with Aaron Rodgers as his mentor.
It's going to take a sec for Zach to get that chance again, but when he does, he'll be more ready than he was before.
People are already calling him Ryan Leaf. He could not be more different than Ryan Leaf.
Yes.
Come on!
Got that dog in him, though.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. BYU baseball finishing their series against Portland today and tomorrow. Won the first game last night in dramatic fashion. Karma in play. Can BYU afford to drop one of the remaining 2 games and still feel okay, or is a sweep necessary?
No, they can just win the series. It's about winning series.
Yes. All I need BYU to do is go 6-6 in their last 4 combined West Coast Conference series.
Just be in the top 6, make the WCC tourney, and you're good. And there's some bottom feeders available to play, right? Pacific and Pepperdine haven't been super strong. You have some opportunities.
Yeah, they don't have to. Hey, if you want to win all the remaining WCC
That'd
series,
be fine
great.
with us.
That's great. All right, that takes care of the whip. Is BYU back to its QBU days?
Yes, man.
Offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick will share his thoughts on that and on Jaren Hall and much more after this. He's in studio. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
BYU Food to Go's convenient location at 2191 North Canyon Road in Provo makes bringing popular BYU foods to your next event easy. Everything's ready when you need it at the drive and load pickup. You drive in and they load no matter the weather. And stop in the on-site creamery for great BYU chocolate milk and ice cream. BYU Food to Go, bringing campus to your table. Call for details, 801-422-5001.
Accidents don't just happen 9 to 5. They happen when you least expect them. The team at Siegfried & Jensen is here for you 24/7. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour. Really here for you. No matter when you call us, you'll speak to a real person and have access to the same expertise and personal attention as always, and get the legal help you need when you need it. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour, 24/7.
Learn more at siegfriedandjensen.com.
My name is Sylvester Codmer III, and I love baseball. I wasn't very good at it. What's the point of playing if I can't help the team win? But then something happened that changed everything. Who are you?
Just a friend who's played a little ball.
Babe Ruth is coaching me? I know you're a fraud and a cheater. The magic is gone, and I don't have it anymore. I appreciate everything you've done for me, but maybe it'd be better if you undid it.
Kid, that was you knocking the ball out of the park. The only thing I did was help you to believe in yourself.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. We are live in Studio B. It's NFL Draft Weekend, and not all shows are created equal. We've got a great show today.
This is a good one.
John Beck, and now our next guest, the current offensive coordinator for BYU football, Jaren Roderick, in Studio B, and in person in the new format of our studio for the first time.
Welcome, man.
This is nice. Thanks.
You can come and hang out, relax here when things get stressful over there.
New to me.
We just come in, the lights are off.
Aaron's just taking a nap.
Like, oh, he took it, yeah.
You're welcome to do that. We wouldn't give that invitation to just anybody. This is a really fun weekend, I'm sure, for you, and certainly for Jaren Hall and a lot of the guys you've worked so closely with and you've become so close to, just as friends and you know, co-workers of sorts. How are your emotions on a day like today when you await to see where the BYU guys, including Jaren Hall, are going to go this weekend?
I'm just excited for him, and I'm proud of him. I saw Jaren yesterday in our locker room. He was actually putting a shirt in all the lockers of all of our players. He had, I don't know, it was some I don't even know what the shirt was, but he had taken the time to handwrite everyone's names on the packaging.
Oh yeah,
very nice.
With a Sharpie, and he was putting them in everyone's lockers. That just tells us what kind of guy Jaren is.
Yes.
Day before the draft, or day of the draft of the first round, he's in the locker room handing out T-shirts to.
That's awesome.
All the guys. Actually, they were like collared shirts.
It's and collar.
Okay.
I'm a fan.
They were nice. They were nice shirts. Yeah.
Yeah, I buy their product.
I don't know what. Yeah. So he.
Yeah. Aaron's trying to get a couple.
But I'm excited for him, and you know, he's going to get drafted. I don't know exactly what round, but he will get drafted.
What would surprise you either way when it comes to him in the draft? What are you kind of expecting versus what would surprise you?
Like as far as round goes?
Round, team, fit, that kind of stuff. From what you've, because a lot of teams talk to you.
Yeah. Really, I've learned there's nothing would surprise me now. Everyone keeps their strategy and their plan so secret that there's really it wouldn't surprise me if he went a little earlier than we expect, if he went a little later than we expect. I think every single team almost is a possibility. But I have a lot of confidence in him that he's going to find a way to be successful.
Let me ask you this then. What are the most common questions about him from NFL teams?
Most teams just wanted to know what it's like to work with him on a day-to-day basis. You know, things like what kind of leader he is, what kind of a learner he is, how he talks to his teammates, how he resolves problems with a teammate, what are his study habits like. Most of them can make their own football evaluation from the game film and from what they've seen in practice and in workouts. The more the questions I get are just things about him as a person.
Aaron, we're on the verge of watching now back-to-back BYU quarterbacks being drafted into the NFL, and John Beck just told us he thinks Kedon Slovis is absolutely an NFL quarterback. So this could be three in a row.
You said that too, yeah.
Right? And that's awesome. I want to rewind to a brief moment that you and I shared. You probably don't even remember this, but it's in the midst of the COVID chaos. It's after the Navy game. Like, we're not even allowed to be around anybody, and I happen to like bump into you as you're going down to the field to celebrate, and I'm running out to do some live shot thing. And I just congratulated you on a dominant win, and you said, man, it's been it's taken a lot to get here.
Yeah.
And these are the fruits of everything that's gone into this. It's been a slow build.
Yeah.
But now you've built this into what looks like more quarterback legacy at BYU. What has it taken to get to this point where you've had Zach Wilson and Jaren Hall and now Kedon Slovis?
Well, yeah, it's been a process for sure. It started with just building up our depth around the quarterback. You know, I mean, Tanner Mangum was a good quarterback. We didn't have a great team though at the time. Just overall, we had some roster deficiencies. We had some depth issues, and so it took time to build depth. It started with building an offensive line, recruiting some skill players that could perform, and then having a coaching staff like guys like Fessy and Jeff Grimes and Daryl Funk and veteran coaches that know what they're doing. Steve Clark and Harvey's doing a great job. And we've had a couple of coaches that have come and go, but it was recruiting and then developing those players to put a good team around the quarterback. And now you get a quarterback out there that is as talented as Jaren or Zach, and you got a good team around them. Now you have a chance to be great.
Yeah.
And that's how you develop. It's not just the quarterback. You have to put a team out there that can play and help that guy have success. And that took time. It doesn't just happen overnight. We had to build it up.
And BYU's back in the left tackle game too, which is super exciting. Blake's going to be the second straight starter. Kingsley will be the third straight starter, we think, whenever he comes out in a year or two or whatever, which is exciting. Question about Blake and Puka, who we expect to be drafted in the next 2 days. What are the most common questions about those guys from NFL teams? Similar
things to what I mentioned about Jaren. I mean, they want to know what these guys are like, what their personalities. I had one coach, I won't say what team, but he said about Blake, he said it was the best interview he's had with any O-lineman, and he mentioned, he said he just seems like a dude, man. He seems like a guy I can bring him in the O-line room with all the other O-linemen, and even though he's a rookie, he's going to fit right in, and all the guys are going to love him, and I thought that was a great compliment to Blake, and also a great compliment to the training that Blake's gotten at BYU from his O-line coaches. And with Puka, a lot of guys just want to know about his personality and what he's like. And, of course.
Well, good thing he's pretty quiet, Coach.
I just shared with that Puka is just such a great energy guy. He carries himself with you feel him. You feel him in the room. He brings a lot of energy to everything he does. I've never met a guy who practiced harder than he did. We had to tone him down at practice, because he just goes 100 miles an hour in every drill. And it's fun to share that type of stuff with the NFL guys.
You have been very much in the thick of just recruiting and transfer portal and the madness and trying to piece together a roster. You're getting ready for the Big 12. A lot of transitioning happening here. But you've got some cachet to work with now in terms of BYU guys to the NFL and the quality of program and the style of play. What's the first thing you're telling a recruit, and maybe specifically a quarterback recruit?
Well, the quarterback situation now, like you mentioned, we've had some pretty good success the last few years with Zach and Jaren, and Baylor had some good games too when he played. And now, when I met with Keaton in December, he was already well aware of the success that Jaren and Zach had, right down to certain statistics.
Wow.
He mentioned right away 30-something touchdowns, single-digit picks. That's what you guys have been doing 3 years in a row.
Wow.
He knew it had been 3 straight years of 30-some-odd touchdowns and single-digit interceptions. And his big year at SC, that's what he did. He had 30 touchdowns, and I think it was, I can't remember, 6 picks or something like that. And he mentioned, I need to get back to that. That's what I want to do again. And that was more important to him than NIL money or anything. It was just, I wanted. And so you want to hopefully establish a tradition where that's just what we do. That's what we're trying to get, is plug the quarterback in with a good team around him, and then that's what we do. And that hopefully will keep attracting more good quarterbacks. But then it's also fun to be a receiver if you know you're going to play with an NFL quarterback. It makes it easier to recruit a receiver, and it makes it easier to recruit tight ends. And we should never have trouble getting offensive linemen here. That's been a tradition forever. We can get those guys. So we're trying to get it going where that quarterback play invites good quarterbacks, but it also brings good receivers, and then good receivers and good O-line and all the other good players around them help the quarterback. And it's a cycle that hopefully we can just keep rolling and keep getting better.
I like the quote in the Gordon Monson article about Keaton Slovis that came out about, yes, Keaton passed up NIL money in the SEC, which is pretty notable. I did want to ask you about other guys who have the best shot at a priority free agent opportunity, like Chris Brooks, Harris LaChance, Gunnar Romney, and so on. What are you kind of
Caleb
sensing?
Hayes,
Yes, yeah. Offensively from you.
There's, I think it's hard to predict, what situations they'll land in, because I think being a free agent is so much, there's some luck involved, like what the team's needs are and that type of thing. But I think Chris Brooks can play in the NFL. I think Harris LaChance can play in the NFL. Who else on offense am I forgetting? Oh, Gunnar. Obviously, Gunnar has been a really good player for us. He's had some bad luck with injuries, but when he's right physically and he's healthy, he's a really good player that wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, he can track the deep ball really well as anybody I've ever seen, and wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets in the right camp. He could make a team. There's no reason why he can't.
Aaron, great to have you with us, man. We appreciate the insight and the time. listen, you can come and sit and take a nap here anytime you want, brother.
Pretty comfortable, right?
It's pretty cozy, yeah.
We'll make sure the door gets shut and the lights turned off, and you can have a place to relax.
A warm towel over your eyes.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Zach. Okay, BYU softball. Big doubleheader coming up today, 7 Eastern time. Doubleheader starts. Spencer on the call. San Diego's taking on BYU. Big series for the Cougs.
All right, a rise and shout out to those whose dreams we think will soon become a very big reality. This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
Before I was a coach at BYU, or before I was even a player, I was a BYU fan.
We've got great energy as a team, but we have even better energy because of our fans, and it's absolutely magical.
When you hear the crowd roar, that makes it more exciting, more of an adrenaline rush.
The roar of the crowd, you can feel it on the floor, you can feel that energy, and it's unlike anywhere else in the country.
BYU Sports, it's all about the fans.
That thing is ours. Whoa! No one else can know about it until we figure out what it is. Agreed? Agreed. We're supposed to look out for each other. All this time, I've been searching for us.
It chose you for a reason.
We're in this together.
You're the best friends I've ever had.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
Welcome back with our question of the day. What does the weekend look like for BYU's football guys based on what we saw in round one? Our elite voice of the day presented by PAX Healthcare Elevated comes from Jeremiah Hell. Blake and Jaren both about where expected could go in the next couple rounds if the right team likes to fit. Puka faces a ton of higher-rated receivers yet to be taken. Today's Rise and Shout Out presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
The draft hopeful. Sorry, Dennis, ran out of time.
Let's go. Thanks to today's guests, John, Beck, and Aaron Roderick. For Jarom, I'm Spencer. Shout out to Leon White. See you tonight for softball and baseball. Go Cougs.
See!